Manchester City, nowhere near as shambolic, but a poor start to the season by their high standards. 8 points adrift of Liverpool, of course, as perfect. Question's easy, I suppose, Robbo, is what's wrong with City?
In the two games that we've seen recently against Norwich and against Wolves, the problem's been in the transition or when they've lost possession. Their two fullbacks have been high up the field, which they do, and they usually dominate possession and they force the opposition back, and it hasn't been a problem for them. But the two centre-halves, when they have been counter-attacked, Fernandinho in the last game and Otamendi made bad decisions. Rodri, who's a good footballer, but I don't think he quite is getting at the moment that he needs to drop in between the centre-halves at times and be a more defensive player to allow the fullbacks to go higher upfield. When Guardiola's teams play at their very best, yes, they can play outstanding football, but they win the ball back so quickly as soon as they lose it. That's what he did at Barcelona. That's what he did at Bayern Munich. That's what he's done for most of the time at Man City. That game against Norwich, the game against Wolves, they've been too easy to counter-attack when they lose possession.
Is it over, Ian?
I don't think it's quite over, but that's a big gap now to bridge, isn't it? 8 points. Remember, Liverpool only lost one game all last season as well and set a terrific pace themselves. I mean, this isn't a new thing with Manchester City. They're a magical team at their best and they can look fantastic, but they do slip up in an unscripted way sometimes. Look at it last season. Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Leicester, they lost there as well as the Chelsea game. And this season, they've lost to Norwich. Norwich, away from home, a promoted team, and now the latest defeat that we saw at the weekend against Wolves. So they're prone to slip-ups.
Sid Lowe is still with us. Sid, you sat down and chatted to Rodri. Is there any sense from the conversation that you had with him that there are some problems?
Well, he talked about them having to learn from what's gone on so far. He said, look, any team at any stage in the season is going to have a bad spell, and obviously Liverpool may well have that, but we have to be close enough to them that we have to be able to take advantage of that. He made the point that there was no point now in kind of worrying about it. There's no point in giving up. You just have to analyse what you've done and then improve. He also was very clear, I think, that he thinks that injuries have caused some problems. And although he didn't say this, of course, you look at those two centre-backs we just named, and they're not the most impressive two centre-backs in the world. I think as well, he's in a position where he almost single-handedly has responsibility for all of the defensive work that the midfield does. The rest of the midfield is a long way in front of him. And of course, he's still learning. And he's learning a game that is different to the one that he played at Villarreal, different even to the one that he played at Atletico Madrid. And so he's still got to find his feet there. And I think there's a huge amount of responsibility on him. But I also think, and I don't know what you like in the studio feel, it sort of feels like after 2 league titles in a row. Now, I'm not saying this is why Man City lost, and it may well be that losing actually reinforces this. That is it not all about the Champions League this season?
Is that the problem, Ali? Given that they've won 2 on the bounce, is priorities elsewhere? Does that sneak in?
Well, maybe, but how does that account from Aymeric Laporte not being out on the field? That's an injury issue, and that's a real issue. It's not something that you can say is subjective. No. His absence makes a difference for this team. I would also ask for Rodri, if I were interviewing him, and I'm not trying to do Sid's job, but shouldn't Fernandinho be playing in your position? Isn't he a better defensive midfielder than you are? And so what we're finding is, because you're trying to plug holes everywhere, you seem to be a man short everywhere. And so therefore, you find Manchester City that when they lose the ball in a bad area, they're not in a position to defend. That's not new, but it's not good news for Manchester City because you don't have solutions. You don't have answers to those questions.
Mentally, Stevie, does it take its toll after winning 2 titles?
I don't believe so, not with a manager like Guardiola. And Guardiola's been around long enough, and he understands that you cannot pick and choose what you're going to win. And so every time you step on the field, you have to prepare properly. The fact is, they've got problems defensively because Company retired, Laporte's out, and they're going to have to make do. And when you're playing against teams that are going to sit in and break on you, and that's the only way you're going to lose, there's nothing you can do about it.
Massive game, isn't it? November the 10th at Anfield, Liverpool v Manchester City. Liverpool can end the argument right there. Or could.
God, you're promoting that beautifully. That's exciting.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN+.